All right. Just getting ready to start the live stream here. We'll let anybody else go ahead and kind of come on in. Um, just give them about another few seconds. If you're already here, you can just give us a like, introduce yourself. This is going on both the Facebook channel and the YouTube channel. So on the YouTube channel, there's some streaming capabilities, or you can heart on the Facebook page. Just letting us know you're here. We'll get started here momentarily. Hope everybody's having a good night tonight. Really excited about the live train here. Okay. Anybody else comes on in, we can just catch up later. This will be, like I said, available on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you missed the live stream, you can just go back and watch it later. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here tonight. My name is Josh Lappin, and I'm from the Part-Time Drummer. And welcome to our free live training, where we're going to help out some of the newer drummers get set up tonight, teach them some of the fundamentals. We'll be covering about 4 basic concepts tonight. The first one is going to be how to set up your drums for all of you who are just getting started. We're also going to cover how to grip your sticks properly. Then we're going to move into the single stroke roll, and we're going to finish up by teaching you your first drum beat. So we're going to try to spend about 10 minutes on each of these topics of setting up your drums, learn the single stroke roll and how to grip the sticks properly, and 10 minutes learning your first beat. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so obviously you're going to need a drum set to set something up. So I've got my set of Pearl Export Series here behind us, and we're going to be working with those. We are not covering tuning today, so if that's something you need to work on, we can go back and work on that a little bit later. But for now, we're assuming that you have drum heads already on your drums. If not, it's pretty simple to add drum heads for the beginning, at least, just get it started. What you want to do is you want to screw the lug drums and you tighten them all the way around as evenly as possible until you get pitch on the head that you want. So there's a lot of nuances to that, and that'll be a whole separate training on itself. So like I said, just do your best to get these on for now if you don't know how to do it correctly. All right, so let's go ahead and work on getting our drum set up. So we'll be shifting around a little bit here, so forgive me for that. Tonight, the setup is going to include a bass drum with a bass drum pedal. We've got a snare drum, got a hi-hat, a ride crash, and 3 toms. So we're going to go ahead and start assembling that. So first of all, you're going to need your bass drum, which I have already convenient for us here. Here's our bass drum. There it is. All right, this is a 22-inch bass drum, standard series or standard size. Bass drums, however, can range from about, honestly, they can go from about 16 inches up to 24 inches. So this one's kind of the standard one, a 24-inch. So the way this works is, like I said, it was setting on its side here. So I'm just moving it to the regular position. So go ahead and set that up there. Next thing you want to do is extend the legs out. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew those and drop them down. Now you'll see that, I don't know if you'll be able to see on the video here because of limitations, but you'll see it when you're looking at your drums. The bass drum legs or spurs can extend out to various heights. I'll give you a little shot here so you can see. They look like this. All right. So they serve 2 functions. First function is that they actually stabilize the bass drum and keep it from moving, which is doing now, they keep your bass drum from kind of wobbling around and moving around when you're playing, especially when you have everything mounted up there. So the second thing it also does is it allows you to kind of tilt the angle of the bass drum. So normally if the bass drum is sitting perfectly level, it would be like this. But if you raise the height of the spurs and legs, you can actually get an angle, kind of like this. And what that angle does is it actually can kind of, if you're mounting toms on here, like I'm going to be, it'll actually move your toms a little bit closer to you. So that's one advantage if you want to try that. I typically kind of put mine up about an inch off the floor, so it's about that much kind of raised. I just like it. It's comfortable for me. You don't have to do that. A lot of people do. Some people don't. Totally up to you. Okay. So now that we have the spur set up, this one's going to be difficult tonight. Whatever reason. Okay. The next thing I recommend you set up is your bass drum pedal. So here is a Pearl bass drum pedal. It's a P930. It's an entry level one. It's not very fancy, but it does the job. It's very smooth, very fast, and I like it. So what you want to do is right here is a little clamp, and there should be under here a little screw. What you do, there's a little part. The heads that I'm using on all the drums are silent stroke heads, so they're designed to be a lot more muffled than a regular drum head. So that works out a lot, and it helps out a lot when we're trying to do like these live things, and you don't have to go through a whole mixer or anything to get the levels right. We're just doing this straight off the regular feed, so they're really helpful and useful. All right, we got our bass drum connected, bass drum pedal. The next thing we want to do, actually, I like to go ahead and set the stool up properly. So I'll move the stool set up. I'm going to back to you. All right. Now you want the stool to be set in position comfortably so that when your foot is resting on the bass drum, it is either parallel. So let's say this, your leg, you want it either parallel like this or slightly extended like this. So where your foot can reach the bass drum. Okay, that's where it's most comfortable. You're gonna have to experiment with your stool height. That's gonna vary from person to person. Yeah, you're gonna have to experiment to what's comfortable. But I recommend that you set it somewhere where you're relatively parallel to the floor, or you can go a little bit above parallel. That usually works for people. Going below parallel can be painful in my experience. So, all right, get your stool set up properly. Next thing you want to do, what I like to do is I like to grab the snare drum. We're gonna get that set up. All right, so the snare drum, we're doing a right hand setup too, just so you know. The snare drum is right here, so right beside my bass drum. You want to position it comfortably in between your legs so that you're sort of like this. These are your legs. So that your bass drum leg is like here and your hi-hat leg is over here. And the snare is kind of comfortably in between there so that you can play it easily. You want to set it to a height to where you're hitting the snare drum and your arms are relatively parallel like this. Okay, so you can see right here, I grab my drumstick, the snare, you can see it's pretty parallel. You have the choice on the snare drum to either play it completely flat or you can play it at an angle. I tend to play mine at a slight angle. I find when I play it completely flat, then I'm hitting rim shots all the time, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm keeping it relatively flat, but there's a slight angle there. Some guys do a big angle where they can have it like this. Some guys even do it off to the side on one side if you're playing traditional grill, but that's a different thing for a different day. All right, we got our snare set up now. Next thing I recommend setting up is the hi-hat. All right, there's the hi-hat. Now, if you didn't know, real quick, the hi-hat is composed of two cymbals, a bottom and a top. These are Zildjian low volume, so that's why you can see through them. They're made that way because there's actually holes bored through them that help them to be less loud. But anyway, you take your bottom hat, go to your hi-hat. There should be a hole there. You insert it, just drop it down. The top hat is actually screwed in two pieces. There's a top piece and there's a bottom screw-on piece here. You just screw them together. You're going to find that I always go somewhere in the middle. It's tight enough, it's loose enough to where they can still ring well and respond well. So I kind of like to do a moderately loose setting on my hi-hat screw here. So, and then there's a screw piece here where it connects to the rod. Always make sure your rod is tightened up too, because I've had times where the rod actually comes out when I'm playing. That's not very fun. Anyway, this goes down like this. It goes to the bottom. Now, another personal choice is how high or low do you want to set this on the bar. I usually set it so where I have about anywhere from 3/4 to an inch of opening when it's completely screwed on. There's also a knob at the bottom where you can adjust the angle of the bottom hat. See, that's completely personal too. Again, I do kind of a moderate one. You can see there's a little bit, if you can see, there's a little bit of space still here. But there's quite a bit of space here. So the reason why you do that is so you can get that kind of sloshy sound on the hi-hat. It helps it sound a little bit better, at least in my opinion. All right, hi-hat is set up. You want that, because we're doing a right-hand setup. I don't know if I mentioned that already. You want that to the right of your bass drum. Sorry, your hi-hat's to the left of your snare drum. And you set it at a comfortable position to where your feet can both. All right, so we got this set up. The next thing I'm going to set up is going to be the toms. Sometimes I like to set the floor tom up first, but I'm going to set the rack toms up right now. I've got three total toms, 2 rack and 1 floor tom. Your setup may vary. You may have a 4-piece setup where you've only got 1 rack and 1 floor, or you can even have a whole array of toms. The 5-piece is kind of a standard setup, so I'm going to work with that tonight. But you can arrange any way you want to get a setup like you want. So, all right, the toms. Various manufacturers make their toms differently. This is the Pearl kind of setup. It may vary depending on, like I said, the manufacturer, but they're all going to work relatively similar. There should be a rack tom arm here with some kind of insert. There should either be a clamp. This is a Pearl integrated suspension mount here, which means the clamp is actually on the metal as opposed to in the wood. It's on the rim, clamped to the rim. But there are drums where this part is actually connected to the actual wood. So either way, you can make it work. So anyway, there went my memory lock to the floor. The memory lock is just a piece that allows you to save your settings. So this one actually came loose, so it's going to be a little weird. But so every time you take your tom arm off, you know where your position was in the depth of the shell. So anyway, this guy goes here, gets inserted just like that. Lock it down. Then, depending on, like I said, your drum setup, if you're doing the kind of the beginner setup, your rack tom is probably going to be mounted onto the bass drum, such as this. You just unscrew it to the point where we could slide in there. Just drop it right on in there. Tighten it back up. And boom, there's one tom up. All right, got my second rack tom. This is already put together for us to save a little time. Drop this guy in here. Tighten them up. Looks like my memory locks are off a little bit from the last time I set these up, but that's okay. It'll change a little bit when you tighten up. So tighten it up to get them kind of in a position where you like them. There you go. And finally, we're going to set up our floor tom. Big old 16-inch floor tom here. As you can see, there are legs that attach to this. You can change the height where the floor tom sits here. I usually set my floor tom somewhere near kind of the same height as my snare drum, so they're relatively even. And then you kind of angle it to where you want it to be, and boom, there we are with that. And then the last thing I'm going to set up here is the crash ride. You may have more or less of these depending on your setup. This can serve as both a crash and a ride cymbal. So I usually set this guy up off to the side of my floor tom and angle it somewhere so where it's not going to bang on the rack tom, but I still have enough space not to interfere with my playing of the floor tom. So there you go. There is setting up a 5-piece kit. So we got one bass drum, one snare drum, 3 toms, a crash ride, and a hi-hat. So we're ready to play some drums now. All right, so the next part, as promised, we're going to talk a little bit about how to grip your stick correctly. So grab your pair of drumsticks, doesn't matter which kind, whatever feels comfortable for you. These happen to be Vic Firth 5As. They're one stick I play with. I play with a variety of Vic Firth sticks, but this one's kind of one of my standard playing for kind of general overall playing. A little bit on the lighter side, but I like it because it forces me to hit a little bit harder sometimes. Well, I use it for dynamic control, actually. They give a good pop on the drums, and they require me to hit harder if I need more volume, which is what I want because it helps me to control my dynamics. But anyway, that's a different discussion for a different day. Drumsticks, how to grip a drumstick. All right. Get your drumstick, pick it up, and you want to take your thumb and your first pointer finger and just wrap it lightly around the drumstick, somewhere about 3/4 of the way back. So this is the top and this is the bottom. I'm pinching it about 3/4 of the way back, right? Just like that. The next thing I want to do, I've got these 3 fingers available here. I just want to let them just kind of naturally rest on the stick, just like that. And you can see how it kind of looks. It's pinched in between here with these kind of guys supporting it. This is called match grip. Match grip is called that way because you're going to do the same thing with the other stick. Pinch, fingers around. We got match grip. Now what we want to do is we want to take our hands and just let them kind of go naturally like this so that your wrists are facing down. There's going to be a slight angle. Stand up so you can see it. A slight angle, so you've got, see kind of how they're going in like this. That is the correct way. It's completely natural and it feels good when you're playing. So when you're playing the drums, very natural, wrist down. This allows both the wrist to be able to move and the fingers to be able to support the stick. So that when you're playing, everything is comfortable and you can have control and eventually get some speed in there. So that's match grip. That is the most popular grip and one of the easiest ones to go ahead and implement. All right, next thing we want to do is, now that we know how to hold the stick correctly, is we want to show you how to actually get started on your first roll. So let me grab my snare drum off the kit here, bring it over here. All right, you may or may not be able to see it in the shot. It's right here. There's no mystery with that. Okay, So the way single means one, right? Okay, you all got that. So how do we play a single stroke roll, which is arguably one of the most popular rolls and one of the easiest ones to implement. So what we do, we get our match grip going, all right? Single stroke roll means singles, which is one, so it's just one stroke per hand. So all you have to do is simply alternate your hands. And it's going to be opposite for you when I say right and left, because my right is different from yours. My right is your left and vice versa. So anyway, since I'm right-handed, I'm teaching from a right-handed perspective, we're going to go right, left, right, left. That is the single stroke roll. Right, left, right, left. Okay? I want to throw in a free bonus for you tonight too. We didn't talk about this, or it wasn't advertised, but I'm going to show you how to get that single stroke roll going in an even way. And you're going to keep going. Like that. Okay? Right. So, check something real quick. As you're doing the single stroke roll, you want to keep doing that as evenly as possible until you get to a point of where you're getting as fast as you can play evenly and comfortably before you stop. You want to push yourself to a point where you start feeling tension in either your arms or your shoulders. And once you get to that point, you want to start backing it down. It'd be very helpful if you would invest in a metronome. A metronome is a great thing to have as a drummer. It's on my phone right now, so I can't show you, but a metronome is a device that helps you to keep time. So it's a great thing for drummers to be able to practice with. So anyway, the single stroke roll is right, left. So you alternate that to a point where you don't feel comfortable anymore, and then you back it down. And the goal is to gradually increase your speed over time until you can get it to a point where you're happy with your speed. But the real goal is evenness and precision. Without those two things, speed is really not important at all. All right, let's move on to the final section. The final section is getting your first drum beat going. So we're going to head over to the drum kit now. I'll rearrange real quickly. For this drum beat, you really don't need anything but a hi-hat, the snare drum, and the bass drum, because it's a very entry-level beat, just designed to help you get started. So what you want to do is get yourself set up in your position. The first way to play a drum beat is to actually think of the drums as a series of fours. So this is a concept called 4/4 time. It's a time signature. There are other time signatures, but for the purpose of simplicity for a beginner, we want to simply work with 4/4 timing. So if you can count to 4, you should be able to play in 4/4 timing. All right, the first thing you want to do, we're going to split this into like 3 different sections. We're going to work with our top first, which is hi-hat and snare drum. Then we're going to work with the hi-hat and the bass drum, and then we're going to put them together. So remember, we're counting in 4s. So we want to get a hi-hat beat going using 4s. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our hi-hat. We're going to be playing cross stick with this. We're going to be playing right hand on the hi-hat, left hand on the snare drum. So you're going to end up crossed like this. Um, there are guys who play uncrossed, where they play the hi-hat with the left hand and the snare like this. That's completely up to you. But most people usually start off kind of crossed. So right hand on the hi-hat, left hand on the snare drum. All right, so let's first start off with our hi-hat beat. It's just going to be very simple, counting to fours. So it's going to be a series of fours. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And we're just going to repeat that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? All right. That's kind of number one there. Now what we want to do is get both of our hands playing simultaneously. We're going to continue the 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the hi-hat, but this time we're going to add in the snare drum, but it's going to be on every 2 and 4. So it's very simple. It just goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So you want to do that as slowly as you need to at first to get it going, but over time you can gradually increase the speed. So that's the first part. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, what we want to do is we want to take that same exercise, but now we want to move to our bass drum. So on this pattern, we want to still continue to play 1, 2, 3, 4 on the hi-hat, but on the bass drum, we want to play our foot on the 1 and 3. So it's going to go something kind of like this. We're going to start with the hi-hat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then add the bass drum on the 1 and 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So we're able to play a beat on the top. We'll be able to play a beat on the bottom. Now, what you want to do is you can practice those as much as you want separately. So if you need to spend a lot of time practicing the top or the bottom, you can. There's no shame in that. But when you feel like you're ready, all you do is you simply combine those two together. So you would have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the hi-hat. You would have 2 and 4 on the snare drum, and you would have 1 and 3 on the bass drum. So you're simply going to end up with something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So bass drum hi-hat, snare drum hi-hat, bass drum hi-hat, snare drum hi-hat. So you end up with 1 and 3 on the bass drum and 2 and 4 on the snare drum. And when you get it all evened out and you're comfortable, it'll sound like this. And that is the foundation of all 4/4 drum playing. Once you can master that concept and you can play that comfortably and smoothly, there's a lot of different patterns that you can add on through time to start building up your coordination. So there you have it. There is how to set up your drums. That's how to hold your stick correctly and how to play your first drum beat. So if you're a beginner and you still have more questions or you need additional help, you can just go over to my website, parttimedrummer.com, and I can get you set up with some online drum lessons. I'm going to leave links to that website in the description and everything. So feel free to go check that out anytime you want to. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. And if you have any more questions, you can either visit me at the website or you can email me at josh@parttimedrummer.com, which I'll also leave in the descriptions and everything. Again, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you soon over at the website, and excited about anyone who is getting started on their drumming journey.